Hello, welcome to Fan Made, the podcast where we interview fans that are in some of the most exciting names in the sports and entertainment world who are at the bottom of it, diehard, passionate fans just like you and me. We'll break down some of their favorite game memories, the history, and some fun traditions around going to games. I'm your host, Luke Porco, and today I'm honored to talk to a man who's made a successful career in radio, TV, podcast, social media. And at the end of the day, he's just one of the biggest Yankee fans and Net fans, Cowboy fans in the industry. Here he is, Keith McPherson. Keith, so glad to have you on.
Luke, what's up, bro? Thanks for having me. Glad we could find time on this nice Friday to get together and do the pod. Let's get into it, bro. Whatever you want to talk about, any questions you have for me, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, my first question, since this show centers around going to games, first question is, what was the first game that you remember attending, and were there any like fun memories around it?
Yes. Interesting story. I never went to Yankee Stadium as a kid. Never went to the old Yankee Stadium. It's a huge regret of mine to not just save up the money and go myself, but I was broke. I had no bread. And where I grew up in Monmouth County, that train ride to get to the Bronx was 2 hours plus, and like 3 different trains. So I didn't get to go to Yankee Stadium until I was in college. And I was in college watching the Yankees every night religiously, always have. Would watch them in the bar. I would watch them at my girlfriend's house. And my girlfriend, who is now my wife and the mother of my child, for my 21st birthday, she got us tickets to go to Yankee Stadium. We saw the Royals play. I remember being in the bleachers section 203, heckling Jeff Francoeur, and forget the score of the game. It's just one of those like old memories. I remember I was so drunk and just like, college kid. And the number one thing I always tell people is I remember hearing the PC Richardson.
Yeah.
And being like, wow, I'm inside the TV. I've heard that for years on the TV. Now I'm in here. And I credit my wife as the one who kind of broke that wall for me. The Yankees were always a TV show for me. But my wife saved up some money when we were in college and we got on the train and went up. And once I got inside Yankee Stadium, I'm like, this took way too long. I need to be here more. I need to figure out how to be here more often.
Wow, that's a great story. And look, now you've pretty much all the games work for WFAN. Like,
now
it all kind of came full circle.
Now I got a press credential.
Yeah.
I just got a couple free tickets from WFAN to go tonight.
Oh, man. Hope you bring them some good luck because, they need it.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, I got to go get that Nestor bobblehead. I think I got to go.
Yeah, that's true. Nestor bobblehead night. And yeah, since you mentioned, having press credentials and now going to games, like talk about, you were just at the MLB All-Star game festivities. Describe how awesome that is. Someone who's, there we go. You see it right there, his press pass. But yeah, talk about like what that experience was like, especially like, being a fan growing up and now you're like, on the other side of that, being a media member and going to.
As a kid, love Ken Griffey, even though he hated the Yankees.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you watched, Safeco Field with Griffey and Edgar Martinez and then A-Rod and then Ichiro and even now with Julio Rodriguez. And I was on WFAN for the last month saying no All-Star game for me this year. I went to the last 2. When I was working with John Boy Media, I paid my way to go to Colorado in 2021. Working with MLB Network, I paid my way to go to LA in 2022. They were able to hook up like tickets to the Derby and a couple media passes and things like that. But for my flight and my hotel, I had to pay my own way. And I wasn't going to do that this year because my baby is 3 months. Can't put him on the plane yet. And I wasn't going to ditch my wife and fly out and take away money from my family to go to the All-Star game. But the Players Alliance reached out last minute on July 6th. And they said, we'd like to have WFAN's presence, specifically Keith McPherson, to come out and cover our event and be with us for the All-Star festivities. We'll pay his way. And man, when I heard that, I was like, whoa. I woke up that Thursday morning. I didn't check my email till like 10:30 because I had been on the radio till 2. And then being on the radio till 2, a lot of nights you're up till 4 in the morning with the commute home and just like thinking about things and not being able to wind down. So I slept from like 4 to 10, checked my email at 10:30. And I'm like, I was like, let me check with my wife.
Yeah.
My wife was like, "Oh, Keith, you got to go. Like, we'll figure out where to, take care of my son or where to take my son." And she took him down the shore where we're from. But yeah, the All-Star game was amazing. The Players Alliance is amazing. That's my third one in a row. I call it the Baseball Festival. If you're a baseball fan, if you're a baseball media member, baseball player, that's where everybody is for about 4 or 5 days. And I love it. I'm excited for Dallas, for Texas, for the Rangers to host it next year.
Yeah, no, I was following on your Instagram stories. I'm sure many people were. And yeah, that's what it seemed like, a big baseball festival, like everybody involved in baseball in one way or the other. And yeah, no, it just seemed like such, an exciting experience. And I want to get to, since you mentioned, like, having the MLB network and having them work with you last year and hook you up in some ways for that. But talk about another MLB experience you had about being a cave dweller at the MLB fan cave and how that, got the ball rolling on your sports media career.
Yeah, I actually ran into this guy, Dan, who believed in me back during the MLB fan cave audition in Arizona. I ran into him at Derby After Dark. T-Mobile threw a party after the home run derby. And he's like, "Keith." And I'm like, "Yeah, what's your name, man?" I'm like, "I always remember you because you believed in me back in Arizona. You were telling me you're a shoo-in. You're definitely going to make the fan cave." And I wasn't thinking I was going to even make it. So to run into him, it just was refreshing because he was someone that saw me when I was working at Guitar Center in 2013, auditioning for the cave. And he's like, "You're our biggest success story." He's like, "You took the fan cave and ran with it more than anybody else." He's like, we all root for you. And it's great to see you still doing things with Major League Baseball. So the MLB fan cave was an idea back in 2011. They had 2011, 12, 13, 14 was my class. The last year my class ended it for good reason. We partied pretty hard. And Rob Manfred came in the next year and he's looking over the budget. He's like, "How much did we spend on beer for this place?" They did away with it after that. But the whole premise was we're picking fans that represent different teams from across the country to come to New York City and watch the entire Major League Baseball season in one place under one roof. That's 2,430 baseball games. And you're in the MLB fan cave from first pitch to last out every day. So that can be like 12 o'clock to 2 a.m. most days. That is a 14-hour day most days.
Yeah, I remember when it was going on. It was because when it first started, I feel like you never saw like anything remotely like that really in any sport. And I thought it was so cool. I always kind of wanted to do it, but hearing back to it, like, I was under 21, so it probably wouldn't flown over too well.
Nobody was under 21. Everybody was of age. And
so I don't think it would have worked for me.
They didn't do a good enough job promoting it, honestly. That's one thing I say about it. Like, they had the great idea, but they were, one, not promoting it correctly, and two, afraid to let us really do things. And this was before you could go live on Instagram. This is before we were making TikToks and Reels. I remember being on Snapchat in there, on Vine in there.
Wow.
On Twitter in there, but you couldn't even really put out any video content. Instagram was allowing you to put out 1-minute videos and not like Reels. They were just like 1-minute feed stories. So it was ahead of its time. But it was a good time for me there. I met a lot of players. I met a lot of people in MLB front office, and I made friends for life with the cave dwellers. And for me, MTV2 had a show called Off the Bat every Tuesday on site at the fan cave. So when I got out of the fan cave and I was applying to jobs, I was this close to working at Home Depot. And someone at MTV2 remembered me from the fan cave. I applied to be a social media coordinator with MTV2. They gave me an interview. I passed the first round. I met with the higher ups on the second round, and then they gave me the job. I'm telling you, it was like the fan cave ended in October. I went home for the holidays, November, December, January, February comes, and I'm like, I'm about to just work at the Home Depot down the street from my mom's house, walking distance. And the beginning of March came, and MTV got back to me like March 2nd. I had a round of interviews the next week, and I started there March 23rd, 2015.
Wow. What a turnaround, and look how far it's gotten you now. It's such a cool story to see how things like happen so quickly and like so last minute, and it pays off that as well. I just want to talk about since since it feels like like you mentioned earlier, you're going to Yankee game tonight, you're always at the games. I want to get some questions about, your stadium experience. And first of all, what's other than Yankee Stadium, what's the most fun stadium to watch a game at?
Wrigley. T-Mobile was great in Seattle. That was like the 16th ballpark I've been to. I always tell people I love the Braves ballpark, Truist Park, and their culture, but Wrigley is fun. They have a culture of drinking and partying, and they have Wrigleyville outside of where the Cubs play, where they have a ton of bars and restaurants. What other ballpark? PNC, Pittsburgh's PNC culture is great. Beautiful, backdrop of the city out there. City Field's not bad either.
Yeah.
Even though Mets fans are corny, but
City Field's a great stadium. I will say that. And because you mentioned a couple years ago going to All-Star game, how was Coors Field?
Coors Field, another great place.
Yeah,
it's just so the altitude. List. It's so high up. You gotta be careful with the drinks and the edibles and the other things. You gotta be careful up there.
Yeah.
People pass out. People fall out. People. It's you're high above sea level, and especially if you're going out there after flying out there, like I did a couple times. It's trippy, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. It definitely looks like a very great experience to have watched a game in there. And next question is what's one of your favorite sports to watch live, like any of the four major sports, and why? And what are some aspects that kind of separate it from others they can't get in other sports?
Baseball. I love football, but baseball I've been able to get closest to. I've never sat courtside at an NBA game. I've never sat on the sideline at an NFL game. But baseball, I'm in Legends. I've been right behind home plate. And Yankee Stadium is electric. It's one of the best ballparks or, ballpark atmospheres as far as the fans and the excitement in the league. It's baseball for me. And I know baseball is a slower game. I know people probably disagree. They'll say it's the NFL. The NFL is great. I've been to a few NFL stadiums, too. I've been to, obviously, MetLife. I've been to Soldier Field. I've been to Jacksonville. I'm blanking on some of the other ones that I've seen. Atlanta. But I've always been in the nosebleeds, or I've been in the 100 level closest. Baseball, I've been right on the field level, and it's awesome. And I've actually done that at a few places. NBA is cool too. I've had some good seats in Madison Square Garden and Barclays Center, but for me, it's baseball all the way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like you said, you can be right close on action at baseball, in football, you could be the first row, but you're still there's still a lot of space between the first row and the field, whereas baseball, you're right there.
Yeah.
And you can
a different vibe.
So appreciate the game so much better too. And
absolutely.
It leads to my next question. You sat in the bleachers your first game, and you mentioned being in the Legend Suites. Which do you prefer, and which one's the better fans? I think I know the answer to that one, but I want to hear your take on it.
I prefer Legends. You can't beat Legends.
Yeah.
I've sat in everywhere in Yankee Stadium. The suites are cool, not cooler than Legends. Legends, you have the bar, you have the buffet, and then you have the main stage, and you're right there on the field level. But most of those fans in Legends are not real fans. They're rich people. They're bougie. They're being hosted by a company or the Yankees, and they don't really know what's going on or care about the Yankees that much. In 203, with the bleacher creatures, with the people that I've watched tons of games with, that I've linked up with outside the stadium, they know all the players. They know the players on the opposing team. They're locked into the game on every pitch. They're chanting. They're clapping, they're applauding, and obviously we have the roll call out there, which is iconic. Everybody knows about that. It's a different beast out there in the bleachers. That's the jungle for real. Welcome to the jungle. That's the jungle out there in the bleachers.
Well said, man. And like you said, because you don't, especially those guys in the 203 bleacher creatures, those guys have been doing it since the old stadium, but also they're they haven't some of them come and go, but you still got the same core guys. I feel I feel like it'll never go away, and
it's a family. It's passed down. Traditions are passed down. It's a fraternity. It's a brotherhood. I say it's a family, La Bodega family. Like
Yeah.
we've been linking up for years, and there's OGs, and then there's young guys and people in the middle, and people from Section 39 in the old stadium, and people that have never been to the old stadium, and kids that are just like stumbling into the group. I meet a new group of, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds every year that have run into the bleacher creatures and have joined the gang. So that's cool. That's always nice to see.
Yeah. And I know it's true because I feel like they do kind of welcome people in too. Like even like you said, like younger people who've never been to the old stadium or whatever. Like I feel like they welcome into the brotherhood, and it's great to see. And out of it could be, you could pick a Yankee and you could also pick a non-Yankee, like one of each. Who's your favorite player that you've ever watched live?
I would say Jeter, but right now Judge is giving him a run for his money because in the last few years, what we've seen with Judge and last year I got to see a lot of those home runs live. It's probably Judge, and I got to see more Judge. Honestly, like I wasn't going to the stadium as much when Jeter. The question was live. Live, it would have to be Judge. It would definitely be Judge because I didn't get to see enough of Jeter's career live. But on TV, it was Jeter, it was Bernie, even Cano I liked. But and Curtis Granderson a little bit in his big year where he hit 41, but really is Judge. Judge is a freak. I've watched Judge hit bombs. I've watched Judge play right field. And in this modern day and in this last 6-7 years since I've had access to Yankee Stadium and been able to go to a lot of games, it's been Judge by far. Yeah,
Judge is such a great player to watch. And, us Yankee fans hope he can come back sooner than later. And another question is, what's like the most exciting like sports memory like you've witnessed in person, like whether it be like a championship or a record broken, like what?
In 2006, I went to Washington, D.C., and I saw George Mason beat UConn in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that game. That was quite the upset, wild. Too.
Yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen.
I know.
And what was cool about it, which I always remember, is I had no idea where George Mason was, and it's not far from D.C. So when the regular fans that were just there for basketball cleared out, when the UConn fans hit the road to, get out of that embarrassment, you started to see a lot more green and yellow. The George Mason fans that were out there, that was a historic moment. I was in high school. My uncles got tickets for that tournament. We skipped the games on Saturday. It was a Sunday. And we drove out there, and I remember my uncles got too drunk to drive us home. So I had to drive us home from Washington, D.C. as like a 17-year-old kid.
Oh, wow. It's really throwing you in the fire there.
Yeah.
And
figure it out.
Yeah, because when you mention, going to those like upset type of games, but even at like Yankee Stadium, like this applies to like any sport. It could be, Nets games, Yankee, whatever, football. When you're at a game, what's your go-to food and what's your go-to drink?
I'm always drinking beers. I like Corona. I like Heineken. They almost always have those available, Corona or Heineken. Food wise, man, I keep it simple. I will eat chicken fingers and French fries. I know it's not good for you, but I know it's not a wild card. I know what I'm going to get. And I hate when I try something and it costs $32 and it's that wasn't good. That was a waste of money. I'll just stick to what I know. I just had chicken fingers and fries in Seattle and it was fine. And it is what it is.
With those, a chicken bucket.
But not for nothing, in Yankee Stadium, I have access to the suites. I have access to Legends. I have access to the food in the press area. I can eat good in Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium, the way to go is Legends, steak, lobster, shrimp, and get you some cookies and some ice cream after that.
Good, always a good call. And one good question, hypothetically, if you could go to any game in any sport and you had 3 people to bring, it could be famous, they could be not famous. Who are you bringing and what game are you going to?
Who would I bring hypothetically? I don't have any friends, but I would probably bring my boy Zeke, who I was best man at his wedding, and I didn't have a best man at my wedding, but I would bring Zeke. He's a friend of mine that lived next door to me, aged 5 years old, and we've stayed friends all of this time. My brother Sean, who passed away, I bring him back and take him to wherever And who would be like a fun sports guy? Pat
It could be any. It could even be like a
Pat
celebrity.
McAfee. I'd like to watch football with, or baseball, or basketball, or anything. I like Pat McAfee's style. I dream of being the next Pat McAfee type. I told FanDuel when he left for ESPN, I'm like, if you need a guy, I'm available. I could do what Pat does. I think he's great.
I think he's great too, and I definitely could see you following his footsteps. That guy's killing it, and I know you're next. And and last question, what do you, if you were to meet somebody who's never been to, it could be a Yankee game or any sporting event, we could say Yankees because you've been to so many, but if you could say somebody who's never been to a Yankee, what are some tips and tricks that you tell them about the stadium or going to the game that would make it
get up there early? Like right now I'm sweating it because I just got tickets and I'm like, all right, it's a bobblehead night. They're gonna open the gates at like 5:30. I'm like, I gotta go. I'm like, am I gonna drive up there or I'm gonna take the train? Get up there early. And the thing about the Bronx is there's plenty of restaurants, bars, places for you to hang, public places for you to hang out when you get up there early. It's not like some stadiums where you get there early and you're like, what do? We sit in the car. Get there early. And if you're trying to save money, there's so many ways in the Bronx to save money. You can go and pick up food from one of the surrounding places and bring it in. You don't have to buy food in the stadium. There's so many places you can get a beer the next block over and not pay, $20 for like a shot and a beer in the bar. Just be crafty, get there early, be crafty about how you spend your money. It can be expensive. The parking, that's another thing too. Park on the street. You don't have to park and pay $45. Just drive a little bit. I know at your own risk, but drive a little bit into the hood, drive a little bit into the Bronx and find street parking for free. Oh yeah, for sure. I've done it several times and you do save a lot of money and, you'll be all right to say, and you get good. You don't have to pay all that money, but, and when you mentioned the stadium, like bars and restaurants outside, what's your go-to? Are you a Billy's guy, stands, dugout? What are we? I'm a Billy's guy. 100%. I don't ever go to stands anymore. Stands gets dumb packed. Yeah. I don't ever go to the dugout after they got shut down for like health violations in like 2019 I think 2019 they got shut down for health violations. Straight up. I wouldn't even put that out there. That's a real thing. That place was funky. They reopened. They're good now. I'm sure they cleaned and did whatever they did, but they were shut down for a minute. They were doing something sketchy in there, and I've actually ate at that Taco Bell in there. Oh yeah. Wouldn't recommend. Billy's all the way. Shout out to Joey and George and Billy's dad and the people that own Billy's. They have a gold mine right over there. Yeah, no, they do. And it's so much fun, especially at rooftop in this warmer weather. And but that about wraps up our, conversation. And Keith, thank you so much for the time today. This was so much fun talking to you, learning about your fandom. And one thing before you go, promote where people can find you on social media and where they can hear you. Just my name. Just search Keith McPherson. If you Google it, it comes up with my Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm everywhere on the internet, LinkedIn. And obviously at night, I do WFAN's nighttime show after the Yankee games. And when the Yankees aren't on, I'm on 7 to 12. And I'm also on the Bleacher Report app. I host live streams on the Bleacher Report now pretty regularly, where if you have the Bleacher Report app, follow me in there. You'll get a notification when I'm going live. All right. Thank you so much, Keith. You heard him there. And thanks to all people who are listening. You can follow us on Instagram, Fan Made Podcast, and you'll have the link to the YouTube interview with Keith. And thank you all for listening. We'll hear you. Thanks to Keith for joining, and we'll be back next time.